This is the Fertile Mindset podcast, where we explore all the emotional aspects of fertility to support you on your path to parenthood. My name is Sarah Holland. I'm the Fertile Mindset coach and a mother to 2 children after my own fertility challenges. I hope you find all the support and inspiration you need within this podcast to carry you forward on your fertility journey towards your own successful outcome. It's also my wish that through listening to these episodes, you rediscover how to enjoy life now and live it to the full while you wait for your baby. Now, let's begin today's episode. Hello and welcome to the Fertile Mindset podcast. Today I'm sharing a chat that I had with Nicola Salmon from Fat Positive Fertility. Nicola is doing amazing and much needed work supporting people as they navigate getting pregnant and seeking fertility treatment in a weight-obsessed world. She's the author of the popular book Fat and Fertile, and she uses her unique Fat Positive framework to support people in finding their own version of health without diets, advocating for their bodies, relearning how to trust their body, and believing in their ability to get pregnant. In this conversation, we also talk about our mutual love of the technique EFT and how she used it herself and now how she uses it in her coaching. Nicola is joining me also at the Fertility Stress Solution Summit, which starts next week on the 1st of February. So do join us there too to hear more from Nicola and to take part in her amazing tapping too. I hope that you enjoy listening to our chat. Hello, Nicola. Welcome to my podcast. It's really lovely to have you here. How are you today?
Oh, I'm so good. Thank you so much for inviting me, Sarah. I'm really excited to be here with you.
Yeah, it's going to be a lovely conversation that we're going to have, and not our first conversation because we've spoken many times, haven't we, in the past, but we're also speaking at my upcoming summit, the Fertility Stress Solution Summit, which I'm sure we're going to mention within this conversation as well. So that's another opportunity if you like hearing what Nicola is speaking about, if it's speaking to you and you'd like further support, all of that is going to be in the summit coming up shortly, starting 1st of Feb. But let's talk about why we're here today, Nicola, and what we want to talk about, because you support a section of the fertility community who are often very underrepresented, should we say, and not heard and not listened to. And a lot of their experience, I find, is minimized, when we start talking about in terms of BMIs and numbers and targets to lose weight and things in order to access treatment. It's quite cold and clinical, isn't it? And doesn't really touch on the human side. So I'd really love to hear from you and hear about how you got into this work as well. What drew you to this, and what was it like to start speaking up for people? Tell us all about it.
Yes, I mean, for me, I have always been drawn to fertility, to hormones, because I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome when I was 16 and told you'll never be able to get pregnant, you're going to really struggle. So I kind of anticipated that things were going to be really hard for me when I wanted to start a family. So that's, I think, why I was drawn to initially, like I came into this work as an acupuncturist, and that's why I was drawn to EFT, because obviously they work on the same points. And like for me, the doctor told me that losing weight would cure my PCOS, which it didn't and doesn't. But so that kind of, again, like, sent me on this journey of trying to change my body shape to what I thought was supporting my health. But actually what it did was just led to a lifetime of disordered eating, of binge eating, of a really problematic relationship with food. And in the end, what happened was that I didn't lose the weight, because dieting doesn't really help you lose weight. There's no evidence to support long-term weight loss for folks. And it just left me with a really, really broken relationship with my body. And when I was about to start trying to get pregnant, I thought that I had to go on yet another diet, because I thought I would never be able to get pregnant at my current size. And I was gearing myself up for that battle, that challenge, that yet again, this next thing that I had to try and do. But as luck would have it, we got pregnant really easily, even though I had 100+ day cycles, even though I was in a bigger body. And that's really what planted the seed for me of like, well, if it was so easy for me, like why did the doctor tell me that? And why why do folks in bigger bodies struggle or are told that they're going to struggle? So that kind of was the seed that kind of led me to eventually training to be a coach, and eventually, once I'd started to recover from my own disordered eating and my own problems around food, realizing that I could support others with it as well.
Gosh, it sounds like lots of seeds were planted there. And one of them, towards against that kind of generalizing that everyone who is a certain way, who is a certain weight, will have these problems. And you immediately saw that wasn't the case for you. And if it's not the case for you, then it's not necessarily for everyone. I think there's a lot of generalizing that goes on in health in general, isn't there? And among people in general, presuming that things are a certain way because of what you see. But we're all so unique, aren't we? And I think that's something that our fertility journeys, whatever route they take, teaches us, that we really need to come back to ourselves and what we know about ourselves and learn more about us individually, rather than these blanket terms of you need to be a certain weight, certain BMI, certain age, whatever bracket it is. And that means something definite, because we know it really doesn't.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so much to be said for, really understanding that your lived experience of whatever you're managing, whatever, conditions or oppressions or marginalizations, whatever you are dealing with, like, your lived experience is so valid, and you are the only one living in your body, experiencing the world the way that you do. And as much as doctors can tell you this and tell you that, like, your opinion and your voice around what you want to do with your health and well-being is the most important one when it comes to navigating, fertility treatments or tests or, whatever health concerns that you have and want to explore.
Gosh, it's so important to remember, isn't it? And we're not saying that we should all go out and choose our own fertility treatment, because we're not, IVF doctors here. We don't, we need the expertise. We absolutely need the expertise, but we don't want to lose, like you said, our own voice, our own knowledge of what's really important to us along the way. And of course, as you know, we're not going to dive into all the facts here in this podcast about weight and treatments and that kind of thing. But I'm very interested in the experience of anyone on a fertility journey and what it's doing to them as a person. You touched on there that losing weight really is never straightforward, and most people who are seen to be overweight have had a lifetime of dieting and different approaches that may have just led to more weight gain. So we know it's not the answer, to just follow these steps and all
magic
will be well.
will happen. Yeah,
exactly. So I think when someone comes into a fertility journey when they're feeling really vulnerable anyway, and having to go to the doctor and say, look, I need some help and please support me in becoming a parent, to suddenly to have weight added into that as well will bring back old hurts and beliefs about ourselves. And what's going on, because I know that people are listening right now who can relate to things you're saying and want to be heard and understood. So what do you see in all the people that you've spoken to and your own experience of going into that doctor's office and asking for help when you're in a bigger body? What's that like?
So I think the biggest fear and the biggest worry that most folks have is that feeling of being judged and being shamed. Like, so many people, when they go to their doctors, whether that's to do with fertility or any other health condition, they have probably had experiences in their past where they've been told to lose weight, they've been judged, they've been made to feel like they make bad choices, or that they don't have any motivation, or that they're greedy, and all these other words that we associate for folks in bigger bodies. And what that really does is the doctor's saying, really, when it comes to the essence of it, is like, this is your responsibility, this is your fault, because you haven't been able to, quote unquote, manage your weight. So a lot of people will, first of all, put off those kind of doctor's appointments because of that fear of being judged and shamed. And, the impact that has on their stress levels is huge, even before they get into that appointment. And when they finally get there, it's often the case that doctors will not help them, will not support them, and will tell them that it's their fault in kind of sometimes nice ways, sometimes not so nice ways. But they go away from that appointment feeling like it's all their fault that they can't get pregnant. And they often feel that there's nothing that they can do because they've tried weight loss before and it hasn't worked for them. And it just feels like this never-ending cycle of trying something and it not working, and them feeling like it's their fault that they failed, when in actual fact they're just doing the best that they can, and we just don't have the tools to support them in doing what the doctor's telling them to do. So it's a really, really vicious cycle of shame, of judgment, of, you know, this impacting stress levels, and yeah, just this never-ending circle.
And that's a really hard place to be when you're trying to conceive and you're already having fertility issues, to even, you know, we all believe, don't we, that my body is broken, something is going wrong here, I must have done something wrong, or I'm not doing something right. And then to have it affirmed even stronger, even just by a, like you say, a look or a tone in voice, or the way some information is delivered, you know, it wouldn't take much really, would it, to kind of add more evidence to this is my fault. And it's a hard place to be when you've got to then keep taking one step after another, moving forward, doing things to optimize your fertility, to give yourself a chance of conceiving. You know, it's a hard place to be in, isn't it? How can we support people who are struggling in that way, and what do they need really in that moment? You've said, you know, it can depend on the caregiver and how understanding and empathic they are, but that's not always in our control, is it, who we see in the clinic?
I think that one of the most important things to realize is that there's no reason to believe that your weight is impacting this at all. When you look into the evidence is quite sparse. And actually what happens for most folks is, as soon as they hear that it's their weight, then they immediately go down that route of, okay, well, how can I lose this weight the quickest? And that often leads to very low calorie diets, and really making choices and decisions in your day-to-day life that you may not normally choose, just because your goal is to lose weight the quickest, because that's what everybody's told you need to do. And being able to shift away from that into a place of, you know, how can I nurture my body? How can I give myself the most energy and help myself feel the best way, and give myself food that is going to make me feel good, and move my body in a way that feels good, and find stress reduction techniques that are going to help me feel calmer and more relaxed. Like all of those things, once those are your goals, rather than lose weight in the quickest way possible, then it alters the choices you're making on a daily basis, and it alters the way that you are communicating with your body, and you're telling your body it's safe for me here. I don't need to fast, I don't need to lose weight. It's not like a starvation situation here where there's not enough resources. We're safe, we're being nourished, we are finding joy, we are finding calm, peace, safety, and all of those signals are going to be so important to your body when you're, you know, on this path.
Gosh, I can just see the difference there between, you know, it's so emotional, isn't it? It's such a mindset issue, both what we eat and also, like you say, how we exercise, how we move our bodies. And if it is just being presented to us in this clinical way of, you need to get to X BMI by a certain date to access treatment, or whatever they are being told. Immediately, and I'm sure it's also happens in clinics where information is given about, say, Weight Watchers or something else. Other dieting programs are available. We're not saying anything about particular dieting approaches, but, you know, the calorie counting and the whatever, you know, that kind of traditional approach that I think is widely known not to work now. However, it still exists out there. But it isn't taking into account the relationship with food, the history, the meaning, and the extra meaning that's being added to it here, isn't it? You know, so it can be I love the way you said about nurturing your body, you know, and when we're trying to conceive, that's what food and exercise and our thoughts and everything is really about, isn't it? Is nurturing and supporting ourselves. I remember being given advice by my acupuncturist, so probably very in line with how you think as well, Nicola, but when I was trying to conceive, about what I was eating and how she wanted me to switch it up a little bit and nurture my body more. And it was a really lovely way to talk about it, because she was talking about the foods and all the properties they had, and how they would support my body and support my cells and my particular, you know, Chinese assessment and so on. And it just felt good to take those steps. And it's not about depletion or being strict or making things difficult, but actually enjoying the process. And even, I'm wondering, even having the opportunity to start a new relationship with the way we eat and the way we move. You know, do you see that outcomes possible for people on a fertility journey when they're facing this apparent barrier, that actually it can turn around to something quite, you know, amazing that can happen? Or am I leaping too far ahead here?
No, absolutely. I think, you know, it's definitely an opportunity for you to be able to reassess like your relationship with food and your relationship with your body, and really think about how you want that to look, and also what you want to pass on to your children. Because for so many of us, the way that we think about our bodies and food comes from like our mothers, our parents, our grandparents. You know, it's passed down this line of how we should view our bodies, and how we talk about our bodies, and how we talk about food as good foods and bad foods, and, you know, all this very binary approach. And we can break that chain, and by doing that work now, we can pass on to our children a better relationship with our bodies, and how we talk about our bodies, and a better, you know, more neutral relationship and joyful relationship with food. So it's a really valuable opportunity to be able to do that at this point.
I think there are many opportunities like this, aren't there, on a fertility journey, that sometimes we only see with hindsight, you know, at the other side. But often we do recognize when we're in the midst of it, when we start to see our thoughts change, especially if we're working with a coach or someone, you know, who's guiding us through that process, and we start to learn more about ourselves and recognize our history and how that's contributed. And like you say, then just make those decisions, like, is this something I want to carry on then through my family line and continue this, or am I ready to heal something or change something? And it's quite an unexpected gift, you could say, or empowering aspect of a fertility journey, isn't it? And quite confronting though at first, you know, it's getting that balance, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's, you know, it's obviously not something we would wish on anybody, but it's, there is definitely opportunities for healing if people feel that that is something that they want to pursue. And it's, you know, it's hard. Like, people should not have to go through these hurdles. You know, folks in bigger bodies shouldn't have to advocate and push for treatment that folks in smaller bodies get. But it's, you build up a resilience, and you build up a whole set of tools to support you, which you can use throughout your life, and it helps you to create a better quality of life because of the tools that you've had to choose and find and work hard for to navigate.
How are things looking generally? I mean, we're talking to global audience here, as always, when we do anything online, so it's hard to say specifically, I'm sure. But, you know, are you seeing things changing in clinics? Are people having more supportive conversations? Are any supporting patients with higher BMIs? What's happening on the ground?
Absolutely. I mean, it's because of the way the world is right now. It's really difficult to see, but before the pandemic, things were looking more positive. There were definitely more clinics starting to pop up that were supporting folks of all bodies, who were really inclusive and really like aware of the latest research, and really open to exploring how we support folks of all sizes. Unfortunately, the pandemic has led to more kind of weight stigma, so more anti-fat ideas, especially because of the whole conversation around COVID impacting folks in bigger bodies at a higher rate, which is completely, not very good science. But it's led to a lot of clinics becoming more conservative again, reducing BMI limits, which is really frustrating. But hopefully over time, we'll be able to reverse that again, and hopefully create again more inclusive environments for folks of all bodies in all areas of the world to be able to access that care.
And there's so much that can be done kind of on a personal level, isn't there, beforehand, before that change takes place, because we may not, you know, all live to see that change. Who knows when it will come properly. But this, if we start the support from within, gather the support from others around us, I guess it's not always easy to find other people who can really relate to the particular journey that you're on. Just like anyone on a fertility journey, it's tough, isn't it, looking out there and thinking, who understands me and who's going to be by my side and be my advocate and my cheerleader. You know, it's not always easy to get your kind of gang around you. Is it supporting you? Again,
no,
the
and
internet,
again,
going online can help, I know.
But for folks in bigger bodies, again, they can feel often that they don't want to talk about it, even more than folks in general in fertility, because they are afraid of what other people are going to say, that they're just going to say, well, have you tried this diet? Or my friend's partner's husband, wife did this diet and this really worked for them. Like, that's because of the judgment and shame in our culture in general. It's even harder for folks to start talking about this. So finding other people, and you're not alone, like there are so many other people out there who are also navigating this. So yeah, finding those people can be a real source of support.
Gosh, it takes strength, doesn't it? I can imagine those conversations, and just constantly getting unsolicited advice and, well, why don't you try this and that? And just seeing it in that very direct way of, well, if this is what you've been told, then this is how you should lose weight. And I'm going to, give you advice whether you want it or not, and how demoralizing that is. So we have to have real strength, don't we, when we're facing anything like that, where we really take ownership of it, think, actually, I know what I'm doing. I know my approach. This is why it feels like the best approach for me. And I can filter out then, any unsolicited advice that isn't helpful, rather than it sending us off, down multiple rabbit holes, looking at different solutions that might just not be right for us. So I know your support, Nicola, is like that light in a storm, isn't it? It's that person who does understand, and you're speaking up. And it's been wonderful, actually, in the years that I've known you, seeing you become more visible, more vocal, not at all apologetic at all. This is who I'm here for, and this is why. And that's why I really wanted to speak to you both here on the podcast, but in the summit next week as well, to just show people that there is support there. You really aren't alone. And I know you have a book as well, Nicola. I'm just thinking that kind of access to a voice, reading a book of someone who totally gets how you're feeling, who can speak to the thoughts in your head, starts to build up that self-knowledge, doesn't it? That confidence in ourselves and our decisions and our actions.
It's just knowing that you're not alone, and knowing that people have done it before you, and therefore that almost gives you that little bit of extra strength to know that you can go through it too.
Definitely. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the support you offer as well, because I think we know that you're there now. You're an advocate, and you absolutely, are the voice there, that people aren't alone. They can seek you out for sure. But what kind of tools and modalities can we bring in? I know you started with Chinese medicine and acupuncture, and you've moved into the coaching and the EFT tapping, which is what we, connect on as well. And we'll be speaking about at the summit too. But yeah, how do these tools then help support? What's your approach in clinic with somebody?
Yeah, so I mean, there's the way that I like to see it is from kind of a completely holistic approach. So we have 4 different pillars in the work that I do. So a lot of it is around like supporting your body, which is what we use the tapping for, like that stress reduction and helping people manage their emotions, but also around relationship with food, relationship with body, moving in ways that feel good. I do a lot of work on advocacy with folks as well, to give them the tools and the research to be able to have difficult conversations with their doctors. Around accessing support, accessing tests, treatment, care, and then also kind of, again, looking at that relationship with our body and with food, and really rebuilding that trust that we may have lost throughout our troubled relationships with bodies over our lives. And then finally, around the mindset stuff, absolutely is pivotal to my work as well. Because as soon as someone starts to believe that they are worthy of being able to access this care and support to grow their family, then that just gives them that power and that energy to be able to start to make choices around their health, if that's something they choose, or to go and see that doctor, or to find another doctor who's going to support them better. And without that belief that you are worthy of getting the best possible care, then it can be hard to get the motivation and to get started and to get to find that care out there.
Yeah, we know that mindset, the thoughts that we have, the conversation we're having in our head in the midst of stuff going on, it makes such a difference, doesn't it, as to whether we have the energy and the strength and the clarity of mind to even think outside the box and do things differently, and trust our intuition. Because when we're overloaded by other people's advice or newspaper headlines or whatever else it is that's crowding in on us, it's really hard, isn't it, to tap into that. But the mindset work can free that up massively. And of course that's what we touched on and we dived into really, and did it together in the summit, didn't we?
It was brilliant.
Yeah, so we've already recorded that session, but it's yet to be out in the world, which will be week starting on the 1st of Feb at the Fertility Stress Solutions Summit. We got together and we had a conversation, which was wonderful. But then importantly, we did some tapping to be able to start recognizing those thoughts, those beliefs, and then start, releasing them and working through them and beyond them and seeing what else is possible. So could you tell us a little bit about, well, first of all, I'd like to know, Nicola, why did you accept my invitation? I sent out this invitation with this new idea that I had that I've never done before, which was to create an online event purely about EFT use and its use in the fertility world for fertility support. And you, of course, came to mind because I knew the work you're doing, plus, you love EFT as much as I do. So what made you want to get involved with this? Do you see EFT as important as I do? What role does it play for you?
So obviously, as soon as I saw it was your name on the email, Sarah, I was like, this is going to be amazing. So of course I have to be involved.
I love that trust.
It was a no-brainer. But yeah, I mean, EFT has been such a foundational piece for my own journey in supporting myself with my own relationship with my body and food. It's just really helped me navigate things in a much clearer way. I loved the way you described it earlier, that clarity of mind. And it was just been such a huge tool of support for me. And what I find about it that I love so much is it's so accessible to people. It's so easy to learn and it's so easy to implement into your day-to-day life. I think it's foundational. I think it should be taught in schools. I think every human should have the ability just to be able to use that, and just, what a world that would be if every person had that capability to be able to manage their emotions and stress levels in that way through EFT.
It really would. And it is such a simple technique that's easy and quick to learn, that is completely free of charge to continue using by yourself, and, and accessible anytime. And I know, speaking to people before, even just the knowledge, once you've used a technique like EFT and seeing the results and knowing then that you have it by your side whenever you need it, immediately brings its own benefits, that we go into situations feeling less anxious and less worried, anxiety about the anxiety, isn't it often, how Absolutely. Am I going to feel, like you say, when you prepare for appointments, you might have difficult conversations to have. If you have tools and support by your side, then you can go in, feeling quite safe and supported, and knowing that you can face absolutely anything because you've got this tool to bring out your strength, your clarity, to give you your voice back. It does so much. So we did some tapping together, which, as all the sessions in the summit are, they're all very practical, that you can tap along and you can actually get involved with them and get some shifts straight away. So tell us a bit about what we worked on together, Nicola, and what people can expect when they attend your session.
So we really looked at the beliefs that a lot of folks face when they're in a bigger body and want to get pregnant. Some of those like self-doubting thoughts, and some of those just feelings of discomfort or hatred or loathing or blame and shame that you have around your body, because those things are so common and they don't need to be there. We don't have to feel that way about our bodies, and by lightening some of that load, it just gives you more energy and mental headspace, which you can use for way more exciting, interesting things. And just also help you navigate this journey with more ease and just feel better in your body, because that's absolutely what you deserve to do.
And a lot of the conversations in this summit week talk around like the stages of EFT and how it can guide us through quite a process, really. And it's not just going straight in and dissolving the beliefs, but it's, first of all, it's recognizing that they're at all, isn't it? And listening to our self-talk and going, actually, that is a belief I've got. It's not necessarily true. It doesn't have to stay there. And I do have ownership over this, so it's that acknowledgement and awareness, first of all, isn't it? Then bringing it to the session, which you so, beautifully guide us through and help people give language and give words to their beliefs. And then the action of the tapping, which is all on the meridian points, just like you use in acupuncture as well, is then rebalancing our energetic reaction, our mind-body reaction to that belief. And if we can be balanced while we voice a belief, then we can decide whether it's true or false, if it's needed or not, if it's supportive or not. And what makes me, it's interesting, isn't it, when you see people's reactions when they tap on beliefs, because at first it's very intense and quite emotional and quite serious. And, you know, this is me and this is what I identify with, and it's what I've been telling myself my whole life or whatever. And then as they start to tap and you see their voice kind of change and their relationship to the words change, and even laughter comes in sometimes when people think, actually, that's a really ridiculous belief. And I can't believe that I've been saying that to myself for so long. And, you know, perhaps someone said it to me once when I was a child or whatever, and it really took root. But now I can look at it, you know, with all my years of experience and living my life now, and know that this is just laughable. It's not needed. I can release it. So it's fascinating, isn't it, to see that kind of transition through the stages of tapping.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite is when people are like, no, I don't think I really did believe that, did I? Like, it almost goes
you have to remind them.
Yeah. Where they're like, no, I don't possibly believe I thought that anymore.
yeah, isn't that interesting? And then it's so easy to stay in that new place because it's the natural, healthy, supportive place to be. You know, there's no kind of positive affirmations that we're trying to drill into our brains or anything with EFT, is there? We're not trying to train our mind to think in a certain way that might feel difficult. We're actually just releasing what we don't need and what we've been carrying around as like heavy baggage for so long, so that we can tap back into actually what's our way of thinking. You know, if I were a clean slate again, what would that look like, and what would I choose to think in this situation? It just comes through naturally, doesn't it? And it's lovely to see people find their own empowering thoughts, their own ways to look at themselves and their situation, that give them everything they need moving forward. It's wonderful, no matter what you come up against. Whatever opinions people say, or, you know, medical appointments you have, anything that happens that doesn't resonate and that you know isn't needed, it's like you've got a protective bubble around you and it can just bounce off again.
It's like the duck's feathers, isn't it? Just the water like just whoosh right off it.
That resilience and that knowledge of ourselves as well is so important. Oh, thank you for not only being with me here on the podcast today, which is an absolute delight, but also giving the extra time to the summit as well, because they're really special sessions where we can talk, but we also obviously tap and really dive into something that's useful. So thank you for joining me there, Nicola, as well as the summit, which I'll give the website for in a second. How else can people connect with you directly and your book and all the support you have on offer?
So everything's on my website, which is nicolasalmon.co.uk. I'm also on Instagram at Fat Positive Fertility, and my book is available on Amazon and it's called Fat and Fertile. So that's a great place to get started.
Perfect. Wonderful. And to hear Nicola and I speak at the summit and all the other wonderful sessions that we have there, you just need to go to fertilemindset.com/fertility stress solution. So thank you so much, Nicola, for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This has been such a joy. I'm so grateful for you.
Oh, and me too. It's always mutual. Ever since that day we met at the fertility show in London. It was just a chance meeting, wasn't it? And I love the work that you're doing. So thank you for being there.
Thank you.
I'm so pleased you're listening to the Fertile Mindset podcast. And now I would love to invite you to join us in the Fertile Mindset Sanctuary. The Sanctuary is my fertility support membership, which is focused on taking care of you and helping you enjoy your life while you wait for your baby. In the Sanctuary, I'll guide you through using an amazing technique called EFT or tapping, and you'll soon be feeling less stressed and more joyful. If you're not already in the Sanctuary, do come and join us today, because the best time to start receiving support on your fertility journey is always right now. Honestly, it makes such a difference to have good quality emotional support and techniques that you can pick up and use yourself whenever you need them. Go to fertilemindset.com/sanctuary to join us today. I look forward to hopefully seeing you there and at the next episode of the Fertile Mindset podcast.